So, me being sent to prison 1 week after I had a baby. So, I'm just going to give my experience on having a baby in jail and then being sent to prison. So, I got arrested in May 2020 from stealing from stores. It was when COVID was around, so there wasn't workers at the door checking your receipts, thing like that. So, I decided to steal. I had just gotten my own apartment. I'm about to have a baby, and why I stole, I don't know. Must be the adrenaline rush I would get from it. I have no idea. I'm sober, I'm clean, so even when I got caught, they're like, we could tell you're pregnant and you don't look like you've been using, so why? And I'm like, I don't know. I really didn't have an answer. I think I just had addiction from stealing, like that adrenaline rush. And people think it's weird to be addicted to stealing, but I was. So I get arrested and I'm due in August. So I am far along in my pregnancy. I get arrested and I sit in county jail for those few months. And when I first went in and I saw the judge, I asked for a furlough. A furlough is basically where if you are in jail or prison and a family member passes, or you're about to have a baby, things like that, like something really serious, that they'll let you out. So basically the judge will approve a furlough and you could have an X amount of time to go to the funeral or have your baby, and then you have to go right back to jail. So he granted me a furlough just in case anything happened or I had to have the baby early, things like that. And I pretty much knew I was going to go to prison because by this point I have 12 felony retail thefts. So I asked for the furlough, I get it, and I was going to the doctors weekly because I was a high-risk pregnancy. Before I got pregnant, me and my ex were using and we decided to get clean. So we went to the methadone clinic and we both got on methadone. I didn't know I was pregnant, so don't come at me. I had no idea I was pregnant when I got on methadone throughout my pregnancy because the baby could have passed if they took me off it. It's really dangerous. So I was a high-risk pregnancy, so I was going to the doctors weekly. You guys, being shackled while you're pregnant and going out in public is the worst thing ever. It's so embarrassing. I can't even tell you how embarrassing it was to be out in public at a hospital in handcuffs and shackles. The doctors and nurses were always really nice, but I went weekly because I was a high-risk pregnancy. And, being in jail with my baby, I was just glad he was with me. He's a part of you, so I was just so glad he was with me. I didn't feel alone, if that makes sense. He was just there for me, so I felt okay while I was in jail. But we're sleeping on tiny mattresses, okay? It doesn't matter if you're pregnant or not. They're not going to give you 2 mattresses. They're not going to make it comfortable for you. So you're just sleeping on a slab of metal with a little tiny mattress about that thick. So, and not to mention, I was kept in medical. They kept me in medical because one, I was on methadone. 2, they had to monitor me. And let me just explain how medical is. This is where people who are on watch, things like that. So you got people in turtle suits, you got people crazy, and you're up front in booking, and they have a window. There's no privacy. So the cops are sitting right there, and you have to pee, sleep, shit, all right there while the cops are sitting there. So again, how embarrassing, right? Because they walked around every half hour to make sure you're okay. So it was super embarrassing. And there's no TV, there's no phone, and there's no shower in your thing. So they would only let me out every other day for an hour to shower, use the phone, things like that. It was hard to get a razor because you're up there, blur on watch. Of course, I wasn't with somebody who was in a turtle suit, but I was still up there. So it was hard to get a razor, and it's hard to order commissary when you're up there. So I had no deodorant, no shampoo, no conditioner, nothing. And the gel does not provide you with that. They give you an itty bitty comb, a cheap itty bitty comb, like that long, and they give you a little bar of cheap ass soap, Bob Barker soap, which I didn't even order commissary, so no snacks. But my main thing was hygiene. Okay, imagine being locked in a room and only let out every other day to shower, but you have no deodorant, no lotion, can't shave, like nothing like that. So it was not fun. And I was up there for about a month. So you can imagine. And I just felt so dirty. I felt so gross. I just felt like I'm just glad that my baby was with me at this time, because that's the only thing that really helped me through this process. Okay, so I'm finally able to go in general population, which so much better. Now I could order commissary. Now I could get my hygiene. Now I could use the phone when I want, shower when I want, like things like that. So it was super nice. They were dorm rooms. So you're in 12 bunk beds, and you could see through the other dorm next door. Like, it was all see-through windows, and you had to pee and poop in front of 12 women. Well, including me, so 11. 11 other women. You had to pee, poop, do all that. And of course, everybody called me baby mama. They helped me. They did everything they could to make me feel comfortable and help me, just feel okay. Because I was pregnant and I knew I was about to go to prison, and I only had a few months left with my baby inside of me. And I was so scared. I was going through it, you guys. I truly was going through it. Okay, so weekly appointments, I'm going, and everything's good with the baby. I'm still getting my medication, and it was a hustle in there. I'll tell you that. Like, of course, methadone was a hustle, right? So I was living okay because I was able to cheek my meds. Cheek your meds is basically, you keep them in your mouth, you pretend to swallow, and then you spit it back out. So you're cheeking your meds. So I was good at that. They didn't give me the liquid methadone. They gave me pill form. So I was able to cheek them and use that as a hustle to get things I wanted, because I really didn't. My baby daddy was not supporting me. He was not. And you know what he was doing? It was during COVID, so I was on unemployment benefits through the state, and they were sending you like $800 a week. This man never put money on my books, okay? And he was cashing in my unemployment checks, $800 a week. And he wouldn't give me a lawyer. He wouldn't, like, nothing. And now I had to pay back unemployment because they found out I was in jail. I had to pay them back $2,000 that this man kept getting my checks without me knowing. I didn't know. I had no idea. And I was so upset when I received the letter. I tried to appeal it, but I still had to pay it back. And, he is just so selfish and just gross. And had I known he was cashing in my benefits, like, I would have, been pissed. Okay, he knew all my information. Like, I have the same passwords. I have the same PIN to everything. He would, fill everything out every week. And I didn't know. And I had to pay back the $2,000. And he just, I don't know what he did with it. I have no idea. But one, he could have gotten me a lawyer, right? Two, he could have at least been supporting me while I'm in jail, pregnant with his baby. And yes, I was stealing, but he knew about it. And a lot of times he would wait in the car. So I was out doing it, him knowing, him being there, and him helping me. and he didn't get charged. Kept cashing in my benefits, which I didn't find out till after I was released from prison, and I got a letter saying you owe $2,000. And so he took $2,000 of my money and did whatever with it. I have no idea. But we're no longer together. So it is what it is, right? I mean, it was my fault for going, but he shouldn't have been cashing out my unemployment. It's messed up, right? Going to court, doing that, doing this, doing that. I actually got lucky because if they would have sentenced me to prison before I had my baby, I would have lost that furlough and I would have had to have my baby in prison. So I got lucky. The week that they were gonna sentence me, they pushed it out another week, and I'm so grateful they did that, because that next week, or that later on that week, I was at the doctor's and doing this test for a half hour. He wasn't moving or anything, so they decided to take the baby out. They wanted to take the baby out. So the cops were there, they signed off, they called the jail, did what they have to do with paperwork, and then they let me call my baby daddy. He came up to the hospital, and I was able to have the baby with my baby daddy alone and without handcuffs, without shackles, without the guards being there, anything like that. So I got super lucky. But with my baby being on methadone, he was in the NICU. So he had to stay in the NICU for 60 days. And listen, guys, I'm not proud of it. If I knew I was pregnant, I would never have gotten on methadone. I honestly did not know. I had no clue that I was just trying to get clean and fix my life with my baby daddy. And I, like, on my dad, everything I love, I had no idea I was pregnant. Otherwise, I would never have done it. I would have just gotten clean and suffered, and yeah. So at least I wasn't using when I was pregnant. Okay, I was monitored and I was on methadone too, so I wasn't using other things. So I'm glad for that, but I also, didn't like the fact that I was on methadone. But like I said, it was too dangerous for them to take me off of methadone because the baby could have passed if they did. So that's why they kept me on it. So I had a C-section. Everything went great. The baby was in the NICU, so I wasn't able to really see him. I was trying to recover myself. I was able to FaceTime him and look at him and everything like that. They eventually wheeled me to him, and I was able to see him in the little box that they put him in. So I was able to see him like face to face, and he was in the NICU because he had to come off the methadone, which breaks my heart. Like, it's nothing I'm proud of, and I feel bad. So don't come at me in the comments, okay? I already know, and it is what it is. It's already done and over with, and I can't go back. So that's why he was in the NICU. They had to get him. He was going to withdraw, so they had to take him off everything and slowly, wing him off of it. So after the 4 days in the hospital called the jail, which is shitty because usually on a furlough, baby daddy goodbye, and tears were rolling down my face. I didn't want to leave my baby. I didn't know. Like, it was really hard. It was really hard. I was a mess. I was a complete mess. So I go back to jail, and I was like, can I please go back to General Pop where I was? Well, they wouldn't. So I was back in the medical in front of the jail with all the people. I'm bleeding. I'm trying to recover from the C-section. No double mattress. You're basically sleeping. There's like a slab. It's not even like a bunk bed, metal bunk bed. It's just cement, like bench type thing that you throw a little mattress on, and that's what I had to sleep on. So just imagine that. Just having a baby, having a C-section, sleeping on this tiny mattress. It was so crappy. No, they didn't give me a double one, nothing like that. They put me up there because they had to monitor and make sure that I was okay and check on me. And then the doctor was kind enough to wean me off of methadone, because he could have kept me on it up until I had the baby and just cut me off cold turkey. So he was nice enough to keep me on it and wean me off of it, so I was able to slowly drop before I went to prison. Slowly drop and everything like that. But at this point, I didn't know I was going, but I pretty much knew. And then they finally, after a couple days in medical, they moved me back to General Pop. And I can't sleep. I can't eat. I'm just sick to my stomach. I'm sore. I'm in pain. It was just miserable. It was so miserable, you guys. Like, it was hateful. I didn't like it. And I just felt empty. I felt so empty. My stomach, no longer my baby with me. Like, it was just the worst. It was so uncomfortable. And then having to, you're bleeding like crazy. And they didn't give me the doctor pads like you give women in the hospital after you have a baby. No, I had to use these little cheap ass pads, and I had to put like 3 on there because I'm just bleeding like crazy. So in front of 11 different women, clean up all this blood, and it was just miserable. All the girls were really kind, they were really nice. They did the best they could to kind of comfort me and everything like that. And they gave me a pump, so I was able to pump, but I pumped and then I just dumped the milk out. So that was really hard too, to sit there and pump, and then you're like, oh, I want to feed my baby, but I had to pump to release all that milk. So that was really hard too. That was super hard. Super duper hard. And yeah, I don't recommend that for anyone. So if you're pregnant and you're doing things to end up in jail, it's not worth it. Don't do it. It's like the worst thing ever. The worst. Part 3 of being sent to prison 1 week after I had a baby. Okay, so the next week rolls around. So I've had a baby a week ago at this point, and I'm due to go to court. And this is my sentencing. So I'm shackled again, and I'm sent to court. And let me tell you about court. Okay, when they transfer you from the jail to the courthouse, you're in the basement, basically, of the court, or downstairs. You're at the very bottom. And you're in this little room with just cement, like benches, like I had to sleep on right after having a baby. But your hands are shackled, your feet are shackled, and you're in this little room with sitting down for hours. 4 hours, you guys, like hours. Like, you could be there 4 or 5 hours, even 6. Like, your butt hurts, you're up walking around, you're trying to, if you have to pee, you gotta kind of, pull your pants down while you're shackled, handcuffed. Like, a lot of times they will not unlock your cuffs to go to the bathroom, so you have to figure it out. And you're in this room with all these people that have court that day, and you have to pee in front of them. So it is just a long, boring, shitty process. Being in handcuffs and shackles for hours and hours is the worst. It's the worst ever. So I'm at court, it's my sentencing, and I basically see the judge. I break down, I'm crying because, I'm just begging him to please let me be on probation and get out and just go heal and be with my baby. Please. But again, this is, I was at 10 felony retail thefts, 10 or 11. I have 13 total. So that's sad. It's nothing I'm proud of, but I got a total now of 13 felony retail thefts. So I was at my 11th retail theft when I went to court. So the judge was not buying it. The judge was like, I understand you just had a baby, and I'm sorry, but these are the choices you made, and, now you got to suffer the consequence. So, and he's right. He's right. Like, I deserve to go to prison. I, shouldn't have been doing what I was doing while pregnant. I was, rebuilding my life. I was sober. I had no business to steal. Especially, on unemployment during COVID, making $800 a week. Like, I don't know what it was, $600, $700, or $800 a week. I don't recall, but dumb. So the judge sentenced me to prison. And I'll tell you, I was a mess, you guys. I was a mess. Total mess. I had never been to prison at this point, so I had no idea what it was like. I was scared. I knew that, okay, I have to go and live with women with high-profile cases, with women who've done some awful things. And I was scared. I'll tell you that. Because in county, you don't really run into a lot of high-profile cases, and you don't really, it's all like trespassing and, substances charges and theft charges. So that next week, a week after I got sentenced, the bus comes to get me to go to prison. And I'll tell you what. So they bring us up front. It was me and another girl that had already been to prison. So that was comforting to me that she, had already gone, and she was kind of telling me about it and how better it is than here in the county jail and all that. So I felt comfortable, that she knew and we were going down. And usually when you go down with someone, you kind of stick together. So, I was grateful that she already knew what was going on and that she would help me with everything that I needed to know about prison. She helped me a lot, and I'm so thankful. So if you see this, I'm so grateful for you. So they bring us up front and they put us in a cell. Again, with those just cement benches, and her and I are sitting there, and we were up there for 8 hours. They took us at 7 a.m. to roll up our stuff, and we were in that room for 8 hours. Apparently, the prison was shut down. They couldn't go in to drop off people. I don't even know. So they put us in handcuffs and shackles, and we drive to the prison. And the prison from the county jail was probably an hour drive. So we're in the car, and I'm bleeding like crazy. I had no pads when I was up front, and they don't really give a shit. You could be like, hey, can you give me some pads? Yeah, I'll be back. And then they never come back. So I asked several times, and they never came back to give me any pads. So I didn't have any pads or I had only one pad that was already with me, but I knew I needed more because I was bleeding. So we get to the prison, we do intake, and intake takes hours too. You have to see the dentist, you have to talk to the doctor, you have to see the nurse and do answer all these questions, and just, it's a whole process. So intake takes forever. And of course, when they give you your clothes, you have to strip naked. You have to shake out your hair. You have to look behind each ear. You have to open your mouth, lift your tongue, put your fingers in your gums and pull it so they can look. You got to lift up your boobs. If you have a belly, you got to lift up your belly to make sure nothing's under there, which is that's kind of sad, you know, especially if you just have a little belly and you're kind of self-conscious about it and they're like, lift your belly. It's like, could you not have said that? Like, why did you have to do that? But under your belly, and then you got to turn around, show the back of your feet, your toes. And then the worst part, you got to bend over and spread your cheeks, your booty cheeks, spread your cheeks, and cough twice. It's the worst. It's the worst part of going into jail or prison. And I had already been in, like, taking you back a little bit, I've already been in, like, work release before. So, you know, every time you leave to go to work and you come back to the little work release center, you have to undress. You have to do the whole thing over again. So I was used to it, but it doesn't matter if you're used to it. Every time you have to do it, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It's just that's not cool. But I understand why they have to do it. Safety, right? And make sure. And at this point, it was COVID, so they usually have, like, a scanner to scan your body, but they didn't. It was COVID, so they wouldn't really, you know, send you through the scanner. So yeah, that's why they had to do all that. But they still do all of that even if you're sent through a scanner. Like, even at the jail, you have to bend, cough, get naked in front of the officer, do all that, and still be sent to the body scanner. So it really doesn't matter if you have the scanner or not, because you're still going to be undressing and doing the whole thing I just explained. Part 4 of being sent to prison 1 week after I had a baby. Okay, so we're at the prison. I'm there. You get brand new socks. You get brand new underwear. You get brand new uniforms, a coat, cool shoes, like Converse shoes. You get shoes like these. Kind of nice. I brought these home. So we're at the prison. It's during COVID, and we're sent to our rooms alone. So since it was COVID, we had to sit in our own rooms. We couldn't, you know, pair up with anybody. And let me tell you, as many times as I've been to jail, I've never been a bad inmate. So I've never had to, I guess being in medical is kind of similar to that. Being in, like, the whole or PI, you know, where you're stuck in a cell for 23 hours a day and only get out an hour a day. I've never done time like that. Never got in trouble and had to do anything like that. So being sent to my room, because we had to do 2 COVID tests and they both had to come back negative. And at this point, they were not doing rapid tests, okay? The prison was not doing rapid tests. I don't know if rapid tests were out yet, but they weren't doing them. So it's stick it up your nose, send it, do whatever, and then a week later get the results. And yeah, so it was not rapid testing. So we get there on a Wednesday, and I get my handcuffs off and shackles, and I have to walk up the stairs to my room. While I'm walking upstairs, because I was sitting for 8 hours plus the hour of the car ride, when I was walking up the stairs, you guys, I started bleeding. Bled through my pants. Like, how embarrassing. You already have girls that had come probably the week prior, and they're already in there waiting for their 2 weeks to be up. So there's girls in there. And when you get to prison, they're looking at the fresh meat. Okay? They call you a fish. Like, you're fished in, so you're like a fish. And that's what they call where I'm at. But fresh meat too. So you got all of them looking at you. the whole prison knows when, they transport jail inmates to prison. So they know. So it was embarrassing. I bled through everything. And the guard, I'm like, I need pads. Like, I just had a C-section. And I couldn't believe this because in county jails, they don't have tampons. I think you could buy them now. I'm not sure, though. I haven't been for a while. But you only get pads. You're not used to getting tampons. So when she brought me some pads, and also she gave me like 2 handfuls of tampons, some regular and some super. And I was like, tampons? Like, guys, I was shook. I was like, oh my God, tampons? Are you serious? You guys give tampons? Like, what the fuck? And so I felt like I hit the jackpot. Okay, I had tampons, but again, I had a C-section, so, it's not like I had a baby out of my coochie. So I could use the tampons, which I was so grateful for. But I used the pads for a little bit just because I wasn't sure if I could use tampons yet. So I used the pads. But yeah, that was wild to me. So I'm in a cell all by myself. We're locked down for 23 hours a day. And even though I bled all over myself, I wasn't able to go shower. They wouldn't let me go shower. Like, are you fucking kidding me? I just bled. Like, my whole pants were ruined. She had to bring me a bio bag to put my pants in because, and I wasn't allowed to shower until the next day. And let me tell you, after having a baby, after having a C-section, and you're put in a cell all by yourself, and you're locked down for 23 hours a day, you guys, I was going crazy, like mentally. It was like you're left with your thoughts. You're left with, just the emptiness of everything. You've never been to prison, so you got that, you're worried, you're scared, you're stressed out. Your baby's in the NICU. You can't use the phone. Like, they have to set up your phone pin, and it took a week. I couldn't call home for a whole week. And stuck in that room. Just my thoughts. Luckily, the girl I came down with was right next door to me, and underneath the door, because they will slide your trays under there, so there's a big, like, the jail doors, there's only, like, that much space, but the prison, underneath the doors were that much space, so they could slide trays in or slide trays out when you're done. And luckily, the girl I came with was right next to me, and we would, like, lay on the floor as much as I could, because I just had a C-section. But we would lay on the floor and we would just talk. And I'm so grateful for her. Again, if you ever see this, I'm so grateful for you. But I couldn't sleep. I was uncomfortable. There was like 8 mattresses in my room. But they were plastic. And they were a little bit thicker, but plastic. Like hard plastic beds. And so it didn't matter if you had 2 or 3. It was not going to be comfortable. So I was just, worried about my baby being in the NICU. Alone with my thoughts, just having a C-section and for the first time in my life, postpartum depression hit me hard. I felt so alone. I truly did. I felt so alone. I felt isolated. I was going crazy, you guys. I was going crazy. Like, just imagine locking yourself in, like, a half bathroom, the size of that, and just being locked down, being shut in there for 23 hours. And sleeping in the bathtub. That's like prison for you, or jail. Like, So I was just so alone. I was so lost. I was scared. I was nervous. I would just had all these emotions. I thought about my baby. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. Like, luckily the girl next door to me, she was like, "You need to eat. You need to eat." And the prison food, oh my gosh, so much better than the jail food. So that was nice. Like, having better food. You got chips, you got ice cream, you got fresh fruit. For breakfast, you had hot breakfast because the county jails do not serve hot breakfast. They just serve you like gross ass frosted flakes without the sugar and just old ass piece of bread and powdered milk that you had to make yourself. So disgusting. So that was nice, but that room, you guys, killed me. And then the next day, I get my hour out, okay? And we're in a room where bad people go, okay? So they're using it for the COVID for right now, so I wasn't with any bad people, but the shower, you guys, had bars and a big old door. I was scared to go in that shower, you guys, but I knew I had to. I was like, please don't shut me in. Please don't lock this door. Like, it was dark and a big old door and just a place where they have to handcuff the crazy guys to shower or the bad people, prisoners that act up. And yeah, it was just shocking. I was just like, oh my God, I have to shower though. So it was nice being able to shower. I got a nice pajama, like long pajama, like a muumuu. So that was nice. Part 5 of me being sent to prison 1 week after I had a baby. So I'm in this room for 2 weeks. And they had the crappiest books. Like, I think I only had one good book out of all of them. So, like, but every time I tried to read, I couldn't focus. Like, my mind was just everywhere. And then being let out for that hour, like, of course I showered, but I would always go to the phone. And they finally set up my PIN. And also they give you a paper of adding numbers to your phone. So you have to get this paper, write the person's name, write the phone number, and who it is, what your relation is to them. And then you gotta put it out the door for them to take it and put it like in the mail. So that could take a couple days. It could take a week. It could take 3 weeks. Like, before they even get it to enter in that number. So you could be waiting a while to be able to call that person. So crappy, right? But my hour out, I would try my PIN. Sorry to cry. I don't want to cry. I would just remember, grabbing the phone, trying my PIN, and trying the numbers. And every time have it say, I can't remember what it said, but just, it wouldn't go through. Just imagine you're stuck in this room and you just want to call home. You're so far from home. You're like an hour away from home. I would get homesick as a kid, so I was really homesick. And I just can't tell you how empty it felt just picking up the phone. You're kind of like excited. You're hoping, you're praying that please let my numbers be there, please. And then have it say that number is not whatever. And the emptiness and just like the letdown of it, because you're kind of like so excited. You're praying, you're hoping, you're like, okay, it has to be today. It has to be today. And just the letdown of it is just awful. So awful. So I wasn't able to call home for a while, about a week. And let me tell you, a week in jail feels like a year. No, I'm exaggerating and being dramatic, but a week in jail truly feels like a month. Like, the time just creeps on by. And yeah. But the letdown, of your numbers not being approved yet, and that kind of like excitement that you get, those little butterflies in your stomach, like, okay, it's gonna work, and it doesn't work. And then what do you do for your hour? Well, you don't want to be in your cell because you're already in there for 23 hours a day. So what do I do for the remainder of my hour? I've already showered. The phone, I can't use the phone. So what do? There's really nothing to do. And so that was hard. It was those 2 weeks in there was the worst 2 weeks of my life. The worst. Like, trying to recover from a C-section. Thinking about your baby, not having your baby, having to pump and just dump the milk out. Like, it was the worst. And I understand that it was my actions that led me to being in there. Like, I understand that. I fully understand that. And it's my fault. But I'm just telling you my experience with it. In case you're pregnant and you're out and you're looking to go into court, maybe my story can help you, or maybe you see it and you're pregnant and you're gonna stop committing crimes because of this video, like, or if you can relate to it, great. And plus, it's kind of like, to share my story feels good for me to like let it out, so that's why I'm sharing. Okay, so I get my COVID test. It comes back negative, the first one, and then I gotta wait another week. They test me again, and then you wait for the results, and then you get them back, and you're like, finally. I think it was 2 weeks you were in there. So they finally tell us to roll up, and I grab all of my stuff, and I just throw it in a bag, and I'm ready to get out of there. So ready. And then you go to another unit, which I can't ever remember what it's called, but before general population. Like, you have a caseworker, they look at your charges, they look if you have, they just kind of rate you on where to put you. So I roll up from the COVID section, and I'm with people now. And I have a roommate, and it's just so much better. I'm not alone. And I guess every day of the week, when they come do count at noon, they tell you if you're on the list to go to General Pop. So I'm in my cell with my roommate. I'm talking to her and all this, kind of, just getting to know who I'm with. And count comes around, and we're at the door, and they look at me, and they're like, roll up. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, literally, there are people that have to wait to go to General Pop. It could be weeks. It could be months. It could be my friend that got caught with me. She went to prison before me, and she was there for 90 days. She hadn't gone to General Pop. And I come, and her and I both roll up. So it was like, she's like, bitch, I knew I was waiting for your ass. She sat in there for 90 days. And the day that I get put in there, we both get told to roll up. So that was nice, because I've known her from the street, and I'm really close with her. So that was nice. Plus, she was right next door to me. So that was really cool. So we roll up together, we go to General Pop, and I just walk in, and it is just loud. People are just, moving all about, and I get my room, and I meet my roommate, Sabrina. I know you're on TikTok, and you always like my videos, so shout out to Sabrina. She was a great roommate. And she was so funny. Like, she would be let out on parole. She would leave prison, and she would go on the run. And she was telling me, like, bitch, once I get out of here, I'm going on the run. And I'm like, girl, no, don't do that. Come on, fix your life. Like, get it together. And you know what? She did. She got out and she did not go on the run. And she's sober today, I think. But she was the best roommate. She would sit up there when it was bedtime. She would sit up there and she would tell me stories until I fell asleep. Like, she would tell me stories, and she was so funny. She was so nice. She's so funny. She was so funny. So, Sabrina, shout out to you. You really helped me through this process, and I loved your stories. And I loved, I looked forward to going to bed or laying in bed at night and her telling her little bedtime stories. She would just make me laugh. So she was really cool. So it's great. I mean, a good roommate really helps your prison stay. It truly does. It really helps your prison stay. Because if you had a crappy roommate and having to be locked down, if we do get locked down, remember, it's during COVID, so who knew? Like, even if we had a few numbers of positive COVID tests, they would lock down the whole camp. And they did while I was there. But I'm jumping ahead. So, a good roommate is always makes your time so much better. Part 6 of me being sent to prison 1 week after I had a baby. So I'm in prison. I have a good roommate. I'm getting to know everybody. I'm getting to know the ropes. I'm not locked in my cell. I'm free to roam. And that was just so nice. The toilets were not metal. They were regular porcelain toilets. It was wild and crazy, but it was so fun. So fun. And I met, a girl that's going to be there for a long time. She don't even see the board till 2043. Chelsea, she was a teacher on the outs and, unfortunately reacted in a bad way. And now her whole life it's crazy how you could be free one moment. Like, say you had a couple of drinks and you're out driving and you hit someone and you unalive them. Your whole life is gone now. Like, so it's like a split second decision that could change your life. And I even met a young girl too that is there for drinking and driving and unaliving someone, and she's young, beautiful girl in her whole life. So you really want to make sure that don't drink and drive. Like, just it could change your whole life like that. Like, so you really have to be smart about it. And that's again why I share my story as well, because, maybe you could take something from this. Like, don't go still, don't drink and drive, like, just these little split-second decisions could change everything. So it's just really important that you think before you react, or think before you get in that car, or think before you stuff that thing in your purse. So if you go down on a 0 to 5, you won't receive nothing from the board for 60 days. If you go down on a 1 to 15, it's 90 days. So I'm there. I finally get to prison, and I have to wait 60 days before I even hear anything from the board, before I get my blue jacket. Your blue jacket is basically all your charges and your pre-sentencing report, just everything about you in that blue jacket. So, and it's a good sign when you get your blue jacket, because, okay, you're about to see the board and things like that. So I had to wait 60 days. So that was another thing, is being in prison and not knowing anything, not receiving anything. Like, it was just hard, to have to wait. But all the girls were like, oh, it's your first time here. Oh, on retail theft. Oh, you're good. I bet you get out when you see the board and da. Well, that wasn't true. So I get my packet finally, and I, fill it out, whatever. why I committed this crime and, just your little details about your life that you send to the board. And usually you go see the board, but I think during COVID, they closed that thing down. So you just had to fill out about your crime and what you did and things like that. So I did that, send it back, and then I got my paper back saying I got 18 months. 18 months. You guys, that broke me. 18 months. I had never served. My longest I've ever served was a year, and that was in work release, where I got out every day, was free, had my phone, was able to work. I just had to go back and sleep at this jail. So I've never done long time like this. So 18 months was really just a gut punch. And I was just at a loss for words because a lot of people were like, oh, you're good. I bet you get out. Like, don't worry about it, blah, blah, blah. And that just wasn't true. And also, in jail or prison, never listen to an inmate, okay? Don't go to inmate.com. Don't, nothing like that, because every case is different. Every case is different. Just because a girl could be on the same charge as you and she could get 6 months and you could get a year or 3 years or whatever. So every case is different. It doesn't matter if you have the same charges. Every case is different. I can't say that enough. So me getting hope from these inmates, I was just let down. And not by them. They truly were trying to help. They were truly trying to just, give me some, good news, if you will. So they were really trying to help me. And they really thought that, no, you should be good. But they also don't know your history. They also don't know, they don't know much about you. So to them, saying oh, you should be good is not, they just don't know the whole story. And that's what's missing. So 18 months, I was sick to my stomach, and baby daddy stopped answering my phone calls. He basically left me. He was cheating on me, and he wouldn't really answer his phone anymore. He did end up telling me that, I don't want to do this anymore. So at least he told me, but I didn't know the extent of what he was doing while I was locked up. But he was cheating and doing things like that. So I was already having postpartum depression, and then being left by my baby daddy while in prison, that was another thing that I had to really accept and just swallow, because what am I supposed to do? What can I do? I couldn't do nothing other than blow his phone up, but I just took it for what it was, and it was okay because he wasn't really going to see our baby in the NICU. The nurses actually called my mom and was like, can you please come visit this baby because the dad is not coming and nothing like that. So my mom would go up there, and that is just so sad. Really? So my mom would go up there and just see the baby and hold him and things like that, because the nurses were so great and taking care of him, and baby daddy just wasn't going to see him. And then, so not only that, not having mom there right after birth, which, is important to babies. Having their mom, they were with their mom for 9 months in their belly. So, I can't imagine what he was feeling. So not only not having mom, but not having dad as well, because dad just didn't care. Dad was too busy doing his own thing. Who knows what he was doing, but other women. But yeah, that really broke me, and I didn't find out about that until I was out of prison, because my mom wouldn't have told me while I was in prison, of course, because that would have hurt. That would have hurt me. Not only did he leave, but I was also, there. And yeah, she just didn't she didn't tell me that. And I'm grateful for her for that. But she just recently actually told me that he wasn't going to see him and stuff. So that really broke my heart. It truly did. Part 7 of being sent to prison 1 week after having a baby. Okay, so baby daddy leaves me and I just swallow it. I'm okay. I spent a lot of time outside just to kind of gather my thoughts and things like that. And it was hard. It was hard. We were together for 4 years. But honestly, he treated me like shit. He put his hands on me. He had anger issues, things like that. So, I deserved better, and so did our baby. So I kind of just, handled that the best way I could. And that was, eat chocolate chips. Every week I bought a bag of chocolate chips, and I gained a lot of weight, you guys. A lot of weight. I was over 200 pounds. So I was already heavy because I was pregnant and, just had a baby. And on top of that, that postpartum depression, being to prison, being without my baby daddy leaving, I was going through it, you guys. And so I clung on to food because honestly, that was really all that I could do. I mean, yeah, they have a gym. I did do yoga and things like that with my friend Chelsea. I did do that, but it's still so hard. When you're depressed, you don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to shower. You don't want to comb your hair. You don't want to do anything. You barely want to eat, or you eat and just cling onto food as your comfort, like I did. So there were a lot of times where I didn't want to get out of bed. There was a lot of times I didn't want to, do anything because I was just so depressed and just lost. And I was just really mad at myself as well for doing what I did when I had my own apartment, when I finally was just building my life. And that decision to still put me backwards. So it's really important I share my story to really tell you how important it is to think before you do something, because you never know. You could be taken from your kids. You could be having your baby in prison. You could be, it's wild. So I share my story to please think before you do anything, especially if you have kids, especially if you are pregnant or, whatever. I know that I wanted to get my baby all this nice stuff. I was still in baby stuff to give him everything that, I had those checks coming in, but I also had rent and things like that. So it was not worth it. So while I'm there, girls tested positive for COVID. So we ended up getting locked down for weeks. You guys, 4 weeks on end. We would be in our cell for so long on lockdowns. And you came out, you switched through top and bottom. So one cell up top came out for 15 minutes. Then the next day, the cell downstairs came out for 15 minutes. And then the next day, the other cell. So it would be days before you were able to get out to shower. It would be days for you to ever get out to use the phone. It was terrible, you guys. But I was lucky enough to be with somebody who had a TV, an extra pair of headphones, because that's truly what got me through the COVID lockdown was the TV. So, and also she had money and got a lot of commissary, which I got commissary. My mom helped me, but not as much as she did. So we had anything and everything to eat. Okay, so we just ate. Because when you're bored, what do? You eat, right? When you're depressed, you eat. Most of us, I don't know. I do. Especially everything I was going through. Was my comfort. Yeah, she had it, and I blew up. I blew up, you guys. I was just, but I didn't care. And they didn't have long mirrors. They had just a little mirror that you had to stand on your tippy toes to look at yourself. But I really didn't see myself. I really didn't notice until I was showering and I noticed I was getting stretch marks on my arms, and I was just like, oh my God, I am disgusting. Not only did I have a baby while in jail, not only did I be sent to prison 1 week after I have a baby, not only did my baby daddy leave me, and now I'm so fat to the point where my arms are getting stretch marks. I was like, that was another thing that just broke me. I was just like, oh my God, I'm disgusting now. Now I'm fucking disgusting. I'm a worthless piece of shit, bad mother, terrible person for stealing and going to jail and not being able to be there for my baby. And then now I'm just this fat piece of shit. Like, that's how I felt. This is truly how I felt, you guys. And I was going through it. I was going through it. Like, I can't even tell you how I felt. Like, I was miserable. Then my roommate ending up catching COVID. And then I ended up catching COVID a week later. Wonderful. So then we had to be sent back over to where they had the COVID lockdown when I first got there. So when I had COVID, I was sent there. Luckily, I had a roommate and we had a radio, but no TV because we couldn't take those things there. And oh, wait, I think my roommate took her TV. Yeah, she did. I was so mad. I was like, don't take your TV. Leave it here. But she went, and then I went a week after her, so she was able to take her TV. But the girl I was roomed with, she had a TV, but she didn't bring it, I guess. Or I don't remember what happened. But we had a radio. Luckily, she had one, and I had one. So I just listened to music, and we got let out. We got let out to get our trays and go back to our cells, so we had to eat and stuff like that. I think we got out, downstairs got out for like a few hours, and then they would go back in, and then the top people would come out for a few hours. So it rotated like that. At least we got a few hours out because there was a lot of us in there, so time to use the phone, time to shower, things like that, play cards, and just, be sick together. We were all fucking sick. It was miserable. The doctor would come around. Yeah, he gave us cough drops and things like that. So that was pretty cool. He was on it like that. So it's not like we had to wait days. But our medicine, like antidepressants, things like that, they didn't have my medicines. And I was like, how hard is it to transfer my medicine from Star 1 over to Star 3. That's what the buildings were called, Star. Like, how hard is that? It's not hard. So it was days that I didn't have my medicine, okay? And I was withdrawing from it to the point where I kept asking for it. Well, one day we come out to get our trays, and I bitch at the officer, and I'm like, I need my fucking meds. Like, this is bullshit. It's been days. I'm sick. Like, I'm depressed already. Give me my meds. And, I don't know, I'll call over there, blah, blah, blah. They gave me the runaround. So I refused to rack in. And usually when you refuse to rack in, they shoot you with rubber bullets. Okay? They shoot you with rubber bullets, you guys. I was not going back in my cell until they brought me my meds. Part 8 of me being sent to prison 1 week after I had a baby. So we go out to get our trays. I bitch at the officer about my medicine, and he's like, oh, you could call over there. I'm like, you guys keep telling me that. You guys keep saying that you'll call over there, but you could literally walk. Like, the buildings were not that far apart. You could literally walk over there, grab my meds, and bring them. And so I was going through it. Like, I was withdrawing from my medication, and it was not good. Yeah, I refused to rack in. And they were like, please don't do this. Please don't do this. Just go to your cell. And I'm like, no. Fuck no. Go get my medicine now. And it was scary because they will shoot you with rubber bullets. And then they'll come in, like, CERT will have to come in. Like, these big badass, people who come to control out of control inmates. And so I was nervous about that. But luckily, none of that happened. A sergeant that was really cool with me, he was in Star 1, and he came over and he was like, Vincent, please, 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 please go back to your cell. I promise I'll bring them to you. And I'm like, no, I want to see them, bring them over until I go back to my cell. But he was able to calm me down. He was able to talk me through it, and he was really cool. And if, Johnson, you ever see this, I appreciate you. He helped me through it. He talked to me. He assured me that they would bring them. He called over there. He even let me listen to the radio, to the other guy responding, that he was on his way, like just tracked him down, like everything he was doing. I'm going over there right now. I'm here. I'm looking for her meds. I found them. I'm walking over. Like, Johnson let me listen to all of that. Was it enough to let me go back into my cell? No. I wanted to make sure, because at this point I was sick. At this point I was 3 days off my medication, and it was not good. It was not good for me. And so they brought it over. I went back to my cell, and another cop rolls around, and she was like, you could have just asked me. And I was like, I've been asking. And she's like, well, you didn't ask me. I would have helped you. I would have made sure. And I was like, well, I don't know, like I was like, I kept asking. I guess I was asking the wrong officers apparently, but she was like, you could have just asked me. I would have helped you. Please don't do that again, And so, yeah, I had to, luckily no rubber bullets came out. Luckily they didn't have to, bring CERT in to come and tackle me and with their shields and all that. Luckily none of that happened, but I ended up getting my meds, and I calmed down, and I was, it took a few days, but I was feeling better. And then we had to take another COVID test. Like, I think a week later, we had to take one just to make sure, because I think COVID lasted, like, I don't know how long. I can't remember. But anyways, we were able to go back, and the prison was so full, and everybody was getting sick. The whole place was locked down. Like, every star was locked down. All the women were locked down. Like, we couldn't work. Everything was slowed down. So it was really crappy. So the board was like, I will start releasing people. And so, yes, I got the 18 months. But I got out in April, so I went in May, got out in April of the next year, because I got 6 months early release for COVID. So I didn't have to serve my full 18 months, and I'm so grateful for that. And I was able to finally leave, and I got home and just held my babies, was with my mom, and just, got my life back on track and everything like that. I have my baby today. Got both my babies. I have them today. So if you've been to prison or if you've been to jail and you lose everything, you can get it back. Yeah, you got to work for it, but you could get it back. And my baby that was in the NICU, like, he had a late start. Unfortunately, he's 4 today. He'll be 5 in August. And I have him. And he's been through a lot. And just this past year, when he was with his dad was taking his stress out on him and was leaving these big bruises and these big marks on him. So I was like, that's a weird mark. Kids usually don't have marks like that on those places. Like, and in November of last year, I picked him up from his dad's, and both of his upper thighs were covered in bruises. And so I was like, what happened? And of course, he wouldn't tell me. He was scared or whatever. And I took care of it. I got a protection order. He did a forensic interview. Apparently a belt was being used. So that kid's just been through a lot. And I know because of my poor choices, he was behind. And again, the methadone, I got on it before I even knew I was pregnant. So, and then they had to keep me on it because that was the only thing that was going to save the baby. But I have him now. I have the protection order. It was granted. I, have him in therapy. I have him registered for school, so he'll be going to school in August. And yeah. And then my baby girl's birthday was Friday. She just turned 6. I'm with her. So, I'm just grateful. And just know that, if you're facing prison time or you just got out of prison or jail, and it's a hill you have to climb, but you could get your life back. You could get, I have 3 years sober. You could get your life back. You could get everything back. I'm sober. I'm clean. I'm going to be hopefully accepted to do the training to be a peer support specialist so that I can help other people who are in addiction, and just, use my story as a stepping stone or just as a reminder that you could get your kids back. You could get your family back. You can, be sober and live life normal. You can do that. So that's the reason I share my story, is just to inspire people, to help people. I mean, I was an addict off and on for 15 years. So I've been through it. I've lived a life long of it, and I lost a lot of years on my life too. But I'm here today. I have my babies, and I'm sober, and hopefully with this story and me, getting training to be a certified peer support specialist, I could help people. And yeah, just be careful about your decisions, because one decision could change your life like that. So be careful, and if anything you take away from this is don't lose hope. I believe in you. You could do this, and don't let this define you. This does not define who you are. Remember that. Thank you.